Hello, everyone. The campfire chat just wrapped up, and I want to say that this was a giant W of a campfire chat. They had a lot of real positive things. And I'm going to try to cover just real quick some of the things that they talked about. We're going to have patch notes coming out for this patch on August 2nd, which is a few days away, and the patch should go live on the 8th. Maybe it'll come out sooner. Maybe it'll come out later. Who knows? It is kind of a little bit of a far away patch, but they are doing quite a bit of stuff here, which is a good thing. So one of the things that their big goals were to improve Sork and Barb, but every class actually ended up getting a little bit of love. So if you're not playing one of these two classes, don't worry, you're getting a little bit of love. Sork, they wanted to reduce the power that comes with a downside kind of feel. And for a lot of these things, they actually just removed the downside or inverted the downside into more positive. So they have stuff like, for example, with greater chain lightning. Each time chain lightning bounces, the next hit deals increased damage. This is really good because it only used to work when it bounced off you before. So chain lightning is just going to do more damage the farther it goes. And one thing that for me, I really liked is they changed ball lightning's aspect so that it no longer has a negative going along with it. And so originally they made it so that when you use ball lightning gravitational aspect, the ball lightning orbits around you but did reduced damage. Now ball lightning orbits around you and does increased damage. So we're going basically from losing, I think, like 25% of damage to gaining 25% of damage. That is a dramatic buff. And yeah, I'm leveling another Sork. It's going to be a very, very fun patch once this goes live. Very much looking forward to that. They're also buffing some other things. So like they talked about the what is it? The one Ligma for Sorks here. It's called spell breaking. So when you take elemental damage, you got resistance to that element. Now it's just going to be whenever you take elemental damage, you are going to get damage reduction for 5 seconds. I believe up to 20%, which makes it a very good thing there. Now, Sork gets a lot of changes, and then Barbarians also getting a bunch of changes too. Their goals for the Barbs were to make it so that their early game was going to be a little bit stronger. So a lot of their generators have had increased fury gain, which I think is good, especially because like taking like lunging strike, for example, from 10 to 12, we end up getting a lot of like multiplicative values to our fury gain, and this is going to allow us to get up to full fury much quicker. And then in the late game, they wanted to improve the uniques. So they'll see a lot of unique changes, but simple things like double swings getting some more damage, ruptures getting some more damage, charge is enhanced charge is getting doubled, and it's making it so that mighty charge now is the second skill for Barb to apply 4 seconds vulnerable, which is a pretty big deal, especially with that charge aspect. Maybe we'll end up seeing a build kind of coming around this. And they are also going to be taking a couple of their other passives and just making them better. Like, for example, Walking Arsenal now is going to last for 8 seconds as opposed to 6. Unconstrained is better. Gushing Wounds is better. And all of this stuff is very, very good because right now, all of Barbarian's key passives kind of lag behind, one particular one, which one I'm talking about. And it is good to see that they're making some buffs to these other key passives. And yeah, some of their legendary aspects are also getting buffed, like they're buffing Hoda a little bit. I wish this was a bigger buff. For some reason they're increasing Thorns, which I don't even think needed any help. Other things like are getting buffed. And they talked about specifically that they want to make the skills like where like you drop an earthquake or you're doing any sort of flat damage number across like any build, that they think that those are really great in the early game and even in the mid game, but in the late game they all suck and nobody's using them because they just don't do enough damage. And they're working on making that better and being something you can focus on, being that something you can like make a build around. But right now that they just don't have that ready, so they are increasing some of the effects here. So like damage reduction while in earthquakes is increased up to 25% now. And then damage bonus in earthquakes is increased up to 25%. That's pretty good as well. And so just little things like that that are trying to like do tiny tweaks to make Barbarian better. Some of their uniques are getting better, or just getting better stats in general. So like Ramadani's Magnum Opus, for example, the physical damage affix is getting replaced with vulnerable damage, which is, a much more desirable affix. And then, of course, all the other classes are getting a little bit of love as well. Like Rogue is getting some stuff here as well. I think there's a second page to this. Some of their uniques are getting better affixes, or stuff go on them. Druids are getting a whole bunch of stuff. Their legendaries aren't getting too much, but I believe increasing ravens and stuff is things that like people really want to make work. Necromancer is getting a little bit of love as well. For example, like aspect of exposed flesh is no longer bone skill specific. So when you're hitting enemies with any skill now that is vulnerable, you have a chance to generate essence, which I think will probably ridiculous in some builds. I know there's like some shadow builds, I believe, that stack a lot of lucky hit. And so I could see this really just becoming a resource engine for them in a big way. And then that's it for the different classes. But they're also looking at some other balance changes as well. And so there's things that they're straight up removing from Nightmare Dungeons. So they're removing Resource Burn, they're removing Cold Enchant, and they're removing Backstab. They're going to be bringing these back, I'd assume, eventually and making them better, but they're just straight up 100% deleting them now. So that's really, really good. Mounts are going to be improved. They saw the Carbot animation, which was making fun of them, so they're making some improvements. They also are improving density on maps. I don't know if I can find this particular spot, but they are going to be adding, I think, just more regular monsters, not necessarily more rare monsters. So we can kind of see here, I believe this is Nostrava Deepwood pre-density buff. Post. Oh, there's the density buff. So it's just more normal monsters on the map here, which, truly isn't that impressive. But just having more monsters, I guess they want you to feel like you're mowing down packs of mobs. And so as opposed to there being like 3 or 2 little dudes all by themselves, you kind of see that, hey, there's a lot more monsters there, which is I think that's a good thing, a good change to make. I kind of wish that they added more uniques or more rare mobs to stuff, but we'll have to see. They're also going to be improving legendary drops from bosses, goblins, butcher, but bosses will all be slightly harder, but they kind of want to make them more worth it. I'm hoping that this means that the world bosses are harder, but I don't necessarily feel like the dungeon bosses are all that hard either. So improving them as well. Like I just did a level 100 nightmare dungeon, and the easiest part of the whole thing was killing the boss. But just giving them more HP, not super interesting. Most of these bosses in nightmare dungeons I think are kind of boring and bland, especially since they are duplicates. It would be neat if they made like multiple different variants of them. That'd be kind of neat. They're also taking the exit dungeon, which originally took 3 seconds, then they changed it to 5. Now they're switching it back to 3 seconds. And they're kind of like, well, we didn't want people using it to like escape from bosses and stuff. But I think that's like a hardcore thing. So they are reverting that change. And overall, kind of just felt like this is a good patch that'll be coming up. This is still a little bit far away. Like I said before, the notes are going to come out in full on the 2nd. And the patch will be on the 8th. But, they're kind of like moving in the right direction. And they talked about some other stuff that they want to work on, like resistances and other quality of life stuff. But, they're listening to feedback and they're making some good changes. So, yeah, it's not that bad. Hopefully this is a good sign for the future of like the next season and everything else in the future here. But hopefully this helps you guys out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll see you in Sanctuary.